I was asked to prepare a speech on the role of women in establishing democratic autonomy. I'm not well trained in speaking English, so I prepared my speech before, and I think maybe it's a chance to keep it short. So I try to structurize this topic a bit, because I think it's a very wide topic, wide theme, when we talk about the role of women in establishing democratic autonomy. So I try to say what we mean when we talk about democratic autonomy. What are the main characteristics of the system we, as women and movement, reject, and what is the situation of women in general, and especially in Kurdistan, and what kind of conflict is there between women and the system. And so from there I will ask what the role of women would be in creating democratic autonomy or alternative structures. So we will ask how we can connect the ruling system, democratic autonomy, and the position or the role of women. So, and I will ask also whether democratic autonomy as project or as model is just a goal, or whether it is the way of overcoming the existent ruling system and thereby creating a free society based on gender freedom or gender equality. So just have a very short look at the existing ruling system. What are its main characteristics? It's patriarchal and sexist, you know it. It's based on power, hierarchy, exploitation. We call it capitalist modernist. And one of its most important mechanisms is the state with its whole structure, especially the nation state of today. So between this existing ruling system and women, not just as individuals, but more as gender and also as a class or a nation, because the Kurdish liberation movement defines women also as a nation, is a structural conflict. And why does this conflict has a structural character? I mean, I will not talk about in detail about the Neolithic revolution and the history of civilization, but the patriarchal system we today live in has a history of 5,000 years, and this is also the age of civilization, with the state as structure, and class societies organized around the state as concrete form and structure. And just before the development to a class society, the patriarchal hierarchy on women already was institutionalized. I think this is a very important point. And women not as biological sex, but as class, are the most systematically enslaved nation and the most exploited class. And this system, which is anti-women, established itself by exploiting the will, the body, and the values of women, and whole social structure created or led by women. And all other exploitations and enslavements came later after this main conflict of humanity. And therefore, women's oppression constitutes the basis of this 5,000 years old system. And today's capitalist, modernist, patriarchal system, with all its different tools, like sexism or chauvinism and so on, or pillars, is the modern expression of a long history and has its roots in the first city-states, which also represent or build the ground for the institutionalization of power, exploitation, and hierarchy, beginning with women. That means that we need to understand today's main conflicts of society as results of an order of relations and conflicts constituted around the position of women. For example, even ownership or possession, I'm not sure which term you use in English, starts with the enslavement of women. And if this is so, and if the reality of women then determines the social reality mostly, and if this conflict between her as gender and class is structural, then we'll have to ask whether an arrangement between women and this system, or between women and state as a structure, is possible, and I think it's not possible. So until here, what are the main points or main results? First, the conflict between women and the system is as old as the system. It is part of the system and the ground for all kinds of exploitation, hierarchy, power relations, etc. Secondly, there can't be peace between women and the system. And thirdly, because the system was created by enslaving women, an alternative system can only be established by liberating women, and by doing so, liberating the whole society from social sexism, from social hierarchies, exploitation, etc. And let's come now to democratic autonomy. What do we understand when we talk about democratic autonomy? Reimer stated important points before and also made the connection between democratic autonomy and democratic confederalism, and also the paradigmatical change inside the Kurdish freedom movement. I think democratic autonomy is not just a second option for the Kurdish freedoms movement as aim, like as an alternative to the aim of an independent Kurdish state. And I think it is also not just the result of a paradigmatic change. I think if we today talk about the situation of the Kurds in the Middle East, we should discuss democratic autonomy as an option not just for Kurds, but also for the whole region, for the whole people in the Middle East, taking into account that the current crisis in the Middle East, especially in the Arabian countries, and the efforts for reorganizing or redesigning the whole Middle East by forces like the United States, and according to projects like the Big Middle East Project or the Green Belt Project, have a lot to do with the kind of nation state which does not fit to the reality of the people in the Middle East, to the social reality, and especially to the position of women. A new frame or form is needed by the people, and democratic autonomy may be a model for the whole region and also maybe for other regions in the world. So we look at the characteristics of the regimes which colonize and occupy Kurdistan, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. Iraq, more or less, a little bit different. We see high centralized, monist, autocratic, hierarchic, sexist, oppressive, anti-democratic regimes. The rate of participation of society in politics, decision-making processes, institutions, etc., is more or less low. I think democratic autonomy can be discussed from different points. We can focus on different points, and I think that it is not just an ultimate goal for the Kurdish movement. I think it's more a process with an open end, because the aim is to establish a democratic society which is communal, has many colors, no social hierarchies, is non-sexist, free participant, etc. Reimer, you stated this point out too. And it's not about copying an existent model of democracy or of autonomy. I think this is important too, because often it's so, if we talk about different models or projects, it's so that we go and look how other people manage this and so on. And democratic autonomy inside the Kurdish society is more about establishing their own democracy and organizing their own social system, and it's the way how society organizes itself and is not organized by someone else. So it's not only a way of organizing a system, but also a social structure. And therefore, it's also a form. That was what I meant when I said it's not just a goal for the future. It's more a process, because it's a way or form to overcome the existing ruling system, which is based on hierarchies, power relations, social sexism, exploitation of nature, of labor, of bodies, of minds, and so on. And if we talk about democratic autonomy as a structure and a tool for a social transformation, we can also define it as the unity of political, social, economical, cultural, religious, ethnical, ecological, and communal organizations of society, youth organizations, women organizations of transgenders, etc. And one important point of democratic autonomy, I find it really, really important, therefore I wanted to underline it, is about politics. If we look from the perspective of the existing ruling system and the way it handles politics, we can say that one way for this system to guarantee its own existence is elitizing politics. I'm not sure if it's the right word, if you use the term in English, elitizing. So to create, to give it in the hand of an elite. Elitizing, yeah, okay. And for example, representative democracy. It is one tool for doing so. And this is a problem for individuals, citizens, on the one side, but also on the other side for collectives like people, different ethnic groups, religious groups, marginalized groups, gender, generations, for example, the young generation or children, disadvantaged people, etc. And this means that a big majority of society does not participate in the political process or in political production processes, or that this participation is limited with elections. And so we have to talk about the political exclusion of big parts of society, and democratic autonomy may be also a way to overcome this. So democratic autonomy is also about creating a different form of politics, especially in Kurdistan and the whole Middle East. And the Kurdish movement calls this democratic politics. This is not a representative system. It's about participative democracy. And here one of the aims is to ensure the participation of wide parts of society and processes of social production. And this is politics, what they mean when they talk about politics. And today there's a different understanding of politics, and as if it's something only done in parliaments or elite institutions or political parties. But these institutions we have today and the way they handle democracy, politics are not able to define and solve the main problems of society. Today, especially in the Middle East, but at least everywhere in the world, we can see the phenomenon of estrangement to politics. And when I talked about elitizing politics, I meant this too. But humans are political beings. And so one aim of democratic autonomy is to give society its political character back. And therefore, democratic autonomy must ground on democratic politics and democratic principles, and this means to gain functionality to democracy. Society must form its own discussion, expression, and decision-making processes, must institutionalize them, strengthen their political quality, and by doing so handle its present and future. So, what are the main institutions or the ground for democratic autonomy? I will not list the name of institutions you never heard about, because as old as this system we are living in is, so are the challenges and the efforts to create alternative structures. And you have similar communal or communalist structures in different times at different parts of the world, independent from each other. But, for example, in Mexico, or before in different, for example, the Commune in Paris, and so on. And but I think this shows us the common needs. What they are creating now in Kurdistan, especially in North Kurdistan and in Rojava, in Western Kurdistan, are citizen assemblies, city councils, quarter councils, regional or street assemblies, communes, women and youth organizations, professional organizations, religious and ethnical organizations, Raima told us before. And important is a platform for wide discussions and decision-making processes. Yeah, we'll just short up. So now come to the point: which role? Yeah, 2 minutes left. What role women play in establishing democratic autonomy? I try to underline the male character of the system we are living in, and the structural conflict between women and this system. And I also try to sum up the characteristics of democratic autonomy as alternative system. And if the system we today live in, with all its negative aspects, is based on the enslavement of women as main conflict, and if the gender conflict is the oldest and main conflict in history, and if the greater freedom of society depends on the position of women as class, then women are the main forces in establishing a truly democratic autonomy or a truly alternative system. So because of this, social revolution must always be a female revolution, must be the revolution of women. Otherwise it would not be a revolution, and otherwise we could not talk about democracy or freedom in general. And therefore the role of women in establishing democratic autonomy is a strategical role. They must lead this process. Otherwise, it would not success. Maybe we would achieve autonomy in Kurdistan. We would develop some alternative structures which are independent, but it would not have a democratic character. So it's not only about giving also women a place in this process together with other social groups. And women should not give themselves such a role, only as supporters, real supporters. Only if women take the role of supporters, real social transformation would not be possible, neither in Kurdistan nor in any other part of the world. So this is also the reason why Kurdish women inside the Kurdish movement have their own structures. They participate in common and also in own structures, and by strengthening their own structures, institutions, and so on, their struggle, they do not just contribute in the general process, but also lead it. And today there are important achievements in Kurdistan, you know it. For example, Salim Muslim talked about the structures which are being established in Western Kurdistan, for example, the co-presidential system, gender quotas, and there in northern Kurdistan and also in Europe, also in London, women organize themselves inside general or common structures like people councils or people assemblies, and also have their own structures, their own women's councils. I think you have it here too. You have here a Kurdish Women's Council and you have a People's Council, and they work parallel. They work together. And the members here in London of the General People Council represent the will of the women inside the Women's Council. So they the process of discussion and decision making is also done inside the Women's Council and then taken over to the General Council. And this is a different form of contributing. And I heard that in Western Kurdistan there are also a lot of there are some people's councils or assemblies led by women. So that means have a female president or spokeswoman. So we have an ongoing process of establishing democratic autonomy everywhere where Kurds live, not just in Kurdistan, but especially in northern and western Kurdistan. And the grade of the democratic character and of the success of these processes depends on the quality and the quantity of the participation of women. And I think this is quite simple, and I will stop now here. And maybe that was more theory. Maybe we could discuss later the practice of this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Meral.